what is the equation for this exponential function? First of all, do you understand this is a decay? A decay always goes down. Growths go up. So, here's the formula for an exponential function. What does A represent? A is your initial value, and B is your growth or decay factor. B is your growth or decay factor, depending on the type of problem. So, to get this problem, we basically have to find out what's A, what's B, and then we have our equation. So, A is pretty easy. Look at your graph. Where does it start? 8. So A is 8. So this is going to be 8. Now we just got to find B. How do you find B? Well, you have to look at your graph and think, how much does it decrease every time? So at 1, you look at each at 1, you're now at 4. At 2, you're at 2. At 3, you're at 1. So from this point to this point, you went from 8 to 4. So what did you do? To get from 8 to 4, you divided by what? 2. So you divided by 2, so this is 1/2. You halved it. So your decay factor is 1/2. Because to get from this point to this point, you halved. And each time, aren't you halving the previous? You have to look, are you dividing by something or are you multiplying by something? Now here's a way you can do it as well. How do you find the middle guy? You can always do it this way. If you take the second value divided by the first value, meaning the second value is 4 divided by the first value, which is 8. What's 4 divided by 8? Isn't that 1/2? Is that the same as the 2 value divided by the 4 value? Don't you get the same number? If you ever just take these values, take the next one divided by the first one, that always gives you your growth or decay factor. I like to not actually think about this. I like to just look at my numbers and go, am I dividing by something or am I multiplying by something? That's easier. Okay, number 3. You have a bacteria that is growing. Y represents the number of bacteria. T represents time. And in here it's days. So if I want to write an equation, you have the same formula. I just from this have to find A and B. Now, for this one, my B value was a fraction less than 1 because it was a decay. Since this is growing, isn't my B value going to be greater than 1? Okay. So, to find my B value, how did I get from 1 to 300? What did you multiply by? 3. Now, from 300 to 900, did you also multiply by 3? So your B value is 3. Is that greater than 1? Yeah, it should be, and it is. What's your initial value? What's your first value? At 0, it's 100. So my equation is y equals 100, 3 to the t. Now why did I put t? Look right there, it wants it in t, time. That's all. There's your equation. Now, if you struggle with figuring out what I multiply to get these or what I divided by, you could also do this. If you just take this first number and divide by this number, do you get 3? Could you also take this number and divide by that number? Most people won't look at it that way. Most of you can just see you're multiplying by 3. You don't have to take this, divide by that. It's actually more complicated. So.